Welcome back, folks. In class number 2, we learned how to calculate our net worth at a point in time using a personal balance sheet. In class number 3, we learned how to calculate our net income over a period of time using a personal income statement. In this class, I'm going to show you why our net income increases our net worth and why a net loss decreases our net worth. In other words, we're going to see exactly how our personal income statement connects to our personal balance sheet. Let's begin. As you may recall, your net income represents the amount of your revenue left over after subtracting all of your expenses. If I earn $50,000 and have expenses of $40,000, then the amount I have left over is $10,000. But where does that net income go? Well, here are a few possibilities. First, my net income can increase my assets. How? Let's say I keep this extra money in a bank account after I earn it. Since a bank account holds cash, which is an asset, my net income just increased my assets. I can also use my net income to buy investments and other assets. When my net income is used to increase my assets, my net worth also goes up. Another option is that my net income can go to paying down debt. When my net income is used to pay off debt, liabilities decrease, but my net worth still goes up. In each of these scenarios, net income increases net worth. It's that simple. Now let's assume the opposite. Let's say I still earn $50,000 in revenue, but my expenses instead are $60,000. In this case, I have $10,000 deficit called a net loss. You might ask, how can I have more in expenses than I have in revenue? Well, there are a few ways I can cover this deficit. First, I can use my existing assets to pay for the additional $10,000 of expenses. I can draw cash from my bank accounts and sell my investments and other assets to cover the deficit. When I use my existing assets to cover a net loss, my assets decrease and my net worth also goes down. The other option is to borrow money to pay for the additional expenses. When I borrow money to cover a net loss, my liabilities increase, but my net worth still goes down. In both cases, a net loss decreases net worth. Again, it's that simple. There you have it. You can now see exactly how net income increases your net worth and how a net loss decreases your net worth from one point in time to another. I designed this visual to clearly show you what we just discussed. On the left side, in green, you can see how net income is used to increase assets and/or decrease liabilities, each of which raises our net worth. On the right side, in red, you can see how a net loss is paid for by decreasing our assets and/or increasing our liabilities, each of which lowers our net worth. It goes without saying that our goal over the long term is to be the person on the left and not the one on the right. The higher your net income is over time, the higher your net worth will be. If you constantly find yourself on the right side, it will be extremely difficult to build wealth, especially if you have a large net loss. In the middle, I've listed various factors that we'll want to consider for each line item. I call this entire diagram the wealth roadmap. In future classes, we'll go into greater detail on managing cash, debt, investments, taxes, insurance, and a whole lot more. The top line is mostly on you. Increasing your earnings requires a mix of education, learning in-demand skills, hard work, luck, taking calculated risks, and pursuing new opportunities. If you want to earn more, there isn't any secret out there. Look for an in-demand career and weigh the costs of the education and training against the benefits you expect to receive from better compensation and a higher quality of life. If you don't want to work for someone else, you also have the option of starting your own business at some point. Starting a business can come with a lot more responsibilities and a lot more risks, but the rewards can also be a lot greater. These rewards come when your business sells an in-demand product or service for a healthy profit and distinguishes this product or service from the competition. I could spend entire classes just talking about starting a business or pursuing different career paths. We may even explore these topics later. For now, I'm going to focus on the expense side of the income statement. As I've mentioned, we learned how to put together our personal income statement in the last class. We can use actual amounts for prior periods or estimated amounts for current and future periods. But how do we actually go about limiting our expenses to a reasonable level? One way is to create a budget. A budget is essentially a plan for keeping your expenses in check. There's no fancy formula or program you need to use. To create my budget, I use a simple wants versus needs analysis. Grab a piece of paper, draw a line down the center, take every expense from your personal income statement and categorize it either as a want or a need. Needs are things we generally can't live without. Think of food, water, shelter, utilities, clothing, etc. Wants are things that are nice to have, but we don't actually need. This is a pretty simple concept, but trust me, it's a very effective tool. Only you can decide what your needs and wants are. The key with this analysis is to be honest, impartial, and exhibit self-control as you analyze your expenses. Another important point to remember is to do this analysis for any planned asset purchases as well. Since assets are different from expenses, we want to make sure we don't lose sight and purchase a lot of assets we don't need either. It's true that a certain amount of spending on wants can raise your quality of life. So, by no means do I think people should live a Spartan lifestyle with little or no fun at all. On the other hand, there are folks living well beyond their means by driving luxury vehicles, wearing expensive clothes, and taking many trips while they burn through all their earnings. Again, it's your choice what path you want to take. Always remember that the more you spend means the less money you have to save, invest, and pay down debt. Living within your means is just a function of managing your expenses and asset purchases. That's it. Striking the right balance is only something you can do based on your goals and circumstances. There isn't a special formula you need to learn. For me, I value freedom. Building my net worth over time gives me more freedom. I still enjoy myself along the way, buying things I want, taking trips, and having fun. But that could easily become very excessive without some discipline. You'll see as we go along that balance is such an important aspect of managing money. For now, I'm certain that most folks could cut out a few expenses from their budget for things they may not even want, may not even use, and certainly don't need. Speaking of cutting out unnecessary expenses, it's astonishing how many people pay recurring, subscription-based fees for things they don't use or need. Many of these costs are set up to be paid automatically. It's a good idea to review your bank or credit card statements for these monthly or annual fees that come out automatically. Do you use or even need all these things? You might be surprised that you're being charged for things you forgot you even signed up for, and how much the prices for these charges have gone up. This is one of the negative aspects of automating your payments. You're less likely to notice the payment amounts going up. Businesses know this, which is why they encourage people to automate payments. More automation often leads to less focus on your expenses. Great for businesses, not so great for you. Before we conclude, I want to give you 2 more simple tools to measure how you're doing with your wealth goals. These are very basic ratios that I'd like you to calculate every time you do your personal balance sheet and your personal income statement. The first is called your assets to debt ratio. Take your total assets and divide by your total liabilities to calculate this ratio. Generally, a higher ratio means a better financial position. The goal is to increase this ratio over the long term. Again, it's a very simple calculation, but also very effective in doing a high-level look. The second ratio is called your expenses to revenue ratio. Take your total expenses and divide by your total revenue to calculate this ratio. Generally, a lower ratio here means you are managing your money more effectively. The goal is to decrease or at least keep this ratio stable over the long term. Again, it's a very simple calculation, but also very effective in doing a high-level view. There you have it, the first 3 lessons that will set up the rest of this course. Going forward, we're going to provide you with many more tools, knowledge, and resources to build your assets, increase your earnings, and reduce or limit your debt and expenses. In our next class, we're going to dive headfirst into managing one of the most important assets on your balance sheet, cash. Before we go, I'd like to give you 2 quick homework assignments. First, calculate your assets to debt ratio and also your expenses to revenue ratio, and set a reminder to calculate these ratios whenever you create your personal balance sheet and personal income statement, at least annually. And second, create your own wants versus needs analysis and decide if there are any expenses you'd like to cut out. Don't forget to review your recurring charges too. If you have any questions at all, please contact me at opusmonetaequestions@gmail.com or comment below, and I will try my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching. We rely heavily on recommendations. Please follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us, and like this video on YouTube, and share our program with your family and friends. See you all in class number 5. Peace!